Hello, welcome back. This talk is about the pelvic floor and it will run in conjunction with the theory lecture that I will have done for you as well. So we're going to start off with some exercises for the what we call the superficial layer, the outer layer, or the figure of 8 muscles. And these are the ones that you're probably more familiar with, so they're involved with if you're trying to have a wee or if you're stuck in traffic and it's the muscles that you use to stop the flow, and also the muscles of the backside, so where you stop the wind coming. So we're talking about that very, very roughly, and all I want to do is just to go into the exercises that I will have referenced on the theory talk. So if I could get you to come and lay over on your back and think about finding your neutral position. Pardon the clicks on my feet. So if you've not done much of this before, it's worth just revising because the pelvic floor muscles work best when your back is in a neutral position. So try and think about the base of your rib cage, top of your pelvis, and this little arch in your lower back. And try and gently tilt the pelvis as far as you can towards the floor, and then as far away from the floor as you can go. So you're increasing the arch, and then you're decreasing the arch. And then somewhere in the middle is what we call the neutral point. And a very rough guide is to be able to slide your hand halfway between your waist and your spine. And once you're in that position, pelvic floor, teamed up with some other muscles called transverse abdominis and some of the oblique muscles, form the pelvic girdle support structure. So we're looking at pelvic floor today, but if you've done any Pilates, it's those core muscles as well. So what I'd like you to do is to take your fingers and find the top of your pelvis. And it's where you'd put your hands if you're a little bit cross or annoyed. And then I'd like you to dig your fingers in deep and maybe do a little bit of a or a or something where you just make those muscles move in an involuntary way. And you should feel a reaction under your fingers, and that'll tell you that you're on the right point. And then if you can keep your hands there, remember you've got to dig in fairly deep, so be a bit firm with yourself. And then what I'd like you to do is to imagine that you are in a row of people and you're going to meet someone important. You're going to be introduced. So you've also had the pleasure of being put up in a hotel overnight, and you went all out on the English breakfast, you had the baked beans and everything, and now you're regretting that because all of a sudden this person's coming along the line and you're feeling a little bit nervous and that wind is trying to escape. So the first thing I'd like you to do is to try and keep your back in neutral and just engage where the wind would escape from. And as you do that, you might feel underneath your fingers a reaction. And then just relax that and let that go. So what we're doing is finding your maximum ability to contract these muscles. So try it again. So stop the baked beans from flowing. So nothing coming out of there. Close that back passage, and you can feel that quite tight underneath the fingers, I hope. So gently release that. Take a moment, just have a moment to breathe. Luckily the first person's come past the line, so you're all right. You're like, whew. Now you're thinking, oh crikey, I had 2 cups of tea and then I had some orange juice and I had some water as well because it's quite hot outside. And the next person in the line is really having a long chat with everybody and you're thinking, oh, I could do with going to the loo now as well. So this time, think about back to that start position, and you're going to engage this time at the front. So where you're thinking, yeah, I could do with going to the loo and having a wee. So can you engage those muscles? So there you'll feel slightly more to the front underneath here. And then release off. So you've got muscles at the front. Ladies, we have an extra opening in the middle, taking us through to the cervix and through to the womb, and then to the back passage. And what I'd like you to try and do here is to engage back to front, front to back. So you engage, engage, release, release, and then do it the other way. So you could do engage the front, engage the back, release the back, engage the front, and so on. You could call this the little Mexican wave, pelvic floor style. Hopefully that you're starting to feel. The other place that you can feel this, so excuse the angle, but your sit bones. And I'd like you just to be aware of where they are, because they're going to come into the next round of exercises. So particularly the back passage you might feel. So pop your fingers onto your sit bones. And if you're not sure where they are, they're the ones that when you sit up and rock from side to side, they're the bony bits underneath here. Okay, so you can either do this sitting upright as I am still here, and engage the back passage again, and you might feel underneath your fingers that way, and then come back down, find that neutral position again, and then fingers on those sit bones, and then engage your back passage. So it's not so easy to feel it when you're lying down as opposed to sitting on them. You might feel something happening underneath the fingers as you fully engage. Okay, so you go through the layers of the glute max. They stay relaxed. It's the muscles deeper within the body that you want to be thinking about, and engage through there. And then release. Okay, so that's a way of feeling different bits of pelvic floor working. And little exercises, so we've done the back, middle, front, front, middle, back. The other ones that's really quite good are the switch on, switch off, switch on, switch off. They're the ones that come into play when you forget to lock the toilet door and somebody bursts in on you. You're minding your own business and all of a sudden it's like, oh! So it's the release, contract, release, contract. So it's the fast, fast, fast. Have a go at doing a switch on, switch off, switch on, switch off. Just try 10 of those. Try and breathe normally, maintain that neutral spine. So I will have referenced an app called Squeezy. So these are the exercises, the fast ones that we talk about in there. All right, good. So let's just have a little breather for a moment. Maybe stretch out, lengthen through. Okay, so your next exercise for the pelvic muscles that we've just spoken about, so this is the superficial layer, the figure of 8 muscles. Why do we call them the figure of 8 muscles? Because the back passage is a sphincter, so therefore it's a circular muscle. So when you open and close that, it's opening, closing, circular. Think also of, so for gents it's just one, the base of the penis, and for ladies it's the vaginal opening and the urethra, and it's where you get slightly more of an oval shape. And what I'd like you to imagine is those two circles sitting one on top of each other like a figure of 8. One is slightly longer than the other. And then can you make that figure of 8? So in your mind's eye, draw a figure of 8. And this exercise is also really good for a bit of mindfulness. So if you're trying to focus, this one's a great one. So 2 jobs at the same time, we like that. So coming back to this, could you imagine the top of the circle around the anus or the back passage? And then you start to drive round or draw round the circle to your left, cross through the centre and go to the opposite right, so around the base of the penis or the urethra and vaginal opening, cross back onto the other side of those and then to the other side of the anal sphincter. And you're doing that in a figure of 8 movement. It might be that you begin by visualising this. And as you start to visualise it, it might be that you can actually do it with the muscles. So this is where the finger connection is fantastic, because if you are getting some movement in the back passage, you can maybe feel a little bit of reaction. It might be left, right that you feel it. Might be more to the front, might be more to the back. So it's a really good layer. It's difficult to get to pelvic floor, so being able to feel it more superficially is really helpful. And basically these muscles that we're talking about sit here, okay? So front to back. Now then, on from there is another layer deeper. So again, without wishing to be too graphic with this, you're looking at the images that I'll show you on the talk down towards the internal contents. And this next exercise is a knee fold. What I'd like you to do is to bring both feet together and allow one knee to drop out to the side and then return. And then do that on the other side. And you can do that as I've shown you here, or you can do it with one leg in the air and one on the floor. So I do it that way around, and then you can let that leg drop out to the side and return. And you could even do that. So let me show you that one. I'm a bit further back from the camera. So you could have one leg in the air, one leg on the floor, maintaining this neutral position. And what I'd like you to do is to breathe in and out. And as you're breathing out, just let the knee drop out to the side and then return. Place that foot down, change over. As you're breathing out, you go back to the floor. Can also do that straight-legged. So at the moment we've still got one foot on the floor, one leg going out to the side. And then the other side out and return. Okay. Okay, having done those exercises, I wanted to just explain where we go next. So we have a middle layer of muscles, and after we've done the figure of 8, then I want you to think about a triangle which goes from the pubic bone, which is at the base of your pelvis, to the sit bones, so here and here, okay? And again, it's because we're looking down into the pelvis, so it's kind of in this sort of area. And what I'm going to get you to do is to focus and use some imagination with this, so that when we go into trying to work them, we're going to start off just by taking one leg out to the side and back. And as you do that, I'd like you to try and be aware of kind of at the front, so from the pubic bone down to the sit bones, as you take the leg out to the front, you're kind of stretching the edges of that supporting triangle and returning the leg back, and then the same on the other side. So your base level exercise, if I come back here, so your base level exercise is from your neutral position. You can have your fingers on the pubic bones if that helps you, and just to imagine that you're going down out towards your sit bones. So I'd like you to imagine you're drawing a line at the top of a triangle, and as the leg drops out to the side, you can feel maybe a little bit of stretch in that area. So option 1 is to do as I've done with the bent leg. Option 2 is to have one leg lifted off the floor, and this is only appropriate if you have no issues to do with prolapse, weakness, or having had any kind of surgery. If those apply to you, you keep your feet on the floor and ignore these next 2 levels. But the next one is to bring the leg up, so you've got a bent leg position, and then you take that, if I swap them over, so you take that out to the side in the same way. So you just draw back. So you're taking a breath in to prepare. As you breathe out, that leg just drops out to the side and return. And because when you lift the leg, you increase the resistance that these muscles have to work against, If those muscles aren't very strong and they're not very good at supporting the abdominal contents, then you're going to struggle. So you're really going to get much more benefit if you keep the foot on the floor. And it's quite relevant if you have been sort of drawn to the menofit pelvic floor or menofit beyond program. It's more likely that you might be in this position. So these are good grounding exercises to build some strength and the understanding of the fact that there's more than one layer of pelvic floor. That said, you can go up into an imprinted position, so both feet off the floor. Make sure that your core does not push out and dome out and equally push out through pelvic floor. So it's really important that you just let that deep muscle draw in and support you. But you can do that exercise like that, or even in a straight leg position. And incidentally, you can do that straight leg with one foot on the ground. There's lots of different levels with this that you can build and progress. So, excellent, that's the middle layer. So let's have a little think next. I will have gone into hopefully a little bit more detail of these by the time you get to this section. So this is the levator ani group, or the deep layer, and I'd like you to almost think of them like a fan. And they attach from the tailbone to the sit bones. So it's a different bit. Let me just put this back on. So it's from your tailbone to your sit bones. Okay, so you're thinking more of the back part. And we touched on this right at the beginning when I said just feel your fingers around your sit bones. And then the tailbone. And with this one, they are very much like a fan when they open out. So I'd like you to think of when you do these movements again, so the knee folds, this time focus on from the sit bone to tailbone. So that's the back end. And see if you can feel or imagine a fan opening and closing. So you could do it with each leg individually, because there sometimes is a difference either side of pelvis, or you can do both together. So it's the same exercise, the emphasis is different. Also, when we come back now, so thinking about your neutral position, keep your feet and knees together, and I'd like you just to try and gently squeeze the legs together and the ankles together and see what happens. Now what I'm aiming to happen is that there'll be a small contraction deep into pelvic floor. So it might be that you feel your back passage engaging, might be you feel in the middle or to the front engaging. But also have in mind this ripple effect. So when you engage the central muscles, there might be a bit of a knock-on effect to the rest of the team. And all of it working together may well help to build the strength. What is important, and the reason why we do the knee fold exercises, is because the muscles need to be strong, but they also need to be flexible to allow the abdominal contents to react. So if you're doing a squat, or if you're standing, or if you're coughing, or if you're actually using those muscles for the job they're doing, which is to basically empty the bladder or the bowel or control the contents of the womb, you need to be able to allow that to happen. So they need to be flexible and strong. So it's this combination of the team, and all of those layers working together help to support the abdominal contents. Let's just come into all fours first of all and do a little bit of a pelvic tilt in both directions. So sticking the bottom up and out will help to take the sit bones apart. So stretching the back, deeper layer from tailbone to sit bone, and then closing. But also just thinking about all of that lower area being supported by the team of muscles and just allowing a little bit of a release. Because one of the things that I haven't yet talked about, it can be that you have an overactive pelvic floor, or it could be that they are locked in part range. And these are really good to just get you working through the full range of movement. By tilting your pelvis, you take the sit bones slightly further apart and then you draw them together. Well done. So just find your midpoint, and then you can just have a little moment to reposition onto your side. Obturator internus. I'll just go through this exercise because I probably will have been quite, hopefully, what should we say, vivid in my descriptions of obturator when we do the theory talk. So you've got options. You can either bring your legs, so you've got one on top of the other, in a side lying position. This also works really well with the band. And we're just going to focus on trying to activate, but where you feel this is important. So I've gone as if I'm sitting up on a chair and I made a right angle. And what I'd like you to think about is as you lift that leg, so the other way to do it is to have your legs like this. So one leg straight and the other on the floor. And as you go to try and lift that leg, you are focusing on where you feel that. And it is much more of an inside. So it's inside the pelvis. So obturator is a muscle a bit like a tadpole. It sits on the inside of the pelvis. It has a little tadpole tail that comes out of the base of the pelvis and attaches onto the leg. So it's really clever. But when you do these, it's not this at the moment, because that's more about the muscles on the outer bit of the pelvis. So this one I'll demo. So as you go to try and lift that leg, it's really difficult to get it to come too far away from the floor, and that's what we want. It's that initial fire up and feeling it in this bit lower here. So from the base of the sit bone, around that area on the inside. So trying to get that obturator that sits on the inside of the pelvis. And if you haven't yet listened to the theory talk about it, I will try and simplify it, but this is the next one. So it's in the right angle and it's small range of movement, remember? So lower waist not tilted to the floor, neutral spine, breathing out as you lift and lower back down. So as I was saying, obturator is unusual in that it's a muscle, it's the fascial bit of the muscle that the pelvic floor, the sling, attaches to. So it's really unusual in that part and clever too. But think of like a washing line. So the line is here, that's the pelvic floor muscles. The bone, so your pelvis is the stand that you're washing line, so the post that's in the ground. The muscle is the attachment, so it's where you tie the washing line to your post. Now I bet you we've all done it, we've always all overloaded the washing line and it's pulled away at the line and sunk. So if that muscle is weak on that area, it's not going to support the abdominal contents very well. Couple that with if your transverse muscle is weak as well, so the pelvic floor, it's all going to be going south, basically. Let's just change that over and go on the other side, as I might as well do them while I'm here. So again, nice and level, lower waist lifted, shoulders level. So you've got your right angle. And as I said, it's a small range of movement. You feel it around the base of your sit bone, deeper, less on the outer part of the hip at the moment. Okay, and that's, again, that obturator muscle. So think of your washing line. This is the knot that you've tied firmly. But the obturator muscle is really, really important for pelvic health. For the support it gives pelvic floor, but also the rotation, so in hip replacement and hip surgery. If this muscle is strong, it's going to support the leg bone and where it joins around the pelvis better for longer. Okay, well done. So that's my little chat on pelvic floor and the exercises.